On Wednesday the 5th of May, we left Parkston Yacht Club Haven at 6:30 to catch the ebb tide round St Albans Head. There was little wind and we motored past Brownsea Island, Studland Bay and Old Harry Rocks. As we crossed Swanage Bay, a northeasterly built up, allowing us to sail, and we kept inshore past Anvil Point, Durlston Head and St Albans Head to avoid the race off St Albans. It was wind over a neap tide, so there was no race to avoid, although at Springs it can be completely different. As we hardened up onto a reach, we had 8 knots of boat speed and a knot of tide underneath us. It was then that we found out the note on the yacht club board about the Lulworth range being closed was wrong. The range officer started to complain on the VHF to the range safety boat that a very slow yacht was crossing the range. I looked around and there were no other yachts. He had to be talking about us. What did he expect? We were doing 9 knots over the ground. I dashed below and checked our position on the plotter. I estimated that on our present course and speed we'd clear the range by 9:10. The range didn't open until 9:30. The range safety boat charged up, but he obviously came to the same conclusion, as he did not even speak to us. We cleared the range at 9:15 and thought about having a look in Lulworth Cove, which always looks attractive from the air. We rolled away the Genoa and eased gently inshore. The miserable range officer was back on the radio, whinging to the range boat that we'd stopped just outside the range. It was the first I'd heard about Lulworth Cove being part of the restricted area, and the range boat skipper obviously felt much the same, as he rather curtly told the range officer there was nothing he could do about that. About 10:30, when we were halfway to Weymouth, the army finally managed to get out of bed, and the big guns opened up back on the range. We thought about going into the new marina in Portland Harbour, but I've always liked Weymouth, so we headed in close to the North Fort to keep out of the way of any condors on the move. We berthed at 10:50, having logged 28 miles. Every time I've been here before, I've ended up in a big raft, but today we had the place to ourselves to start with. Eventually a few others joined us on the visitors' pontoon. Then the Condor arrived to disturb the peace. Why they have to leave their generators going 24/7 is beyond me. It must drive the locals mad. Or at least it must have done so in the past. I gather the Condors are now moving back to Poole.
Imagine seeing that close to
At least one of the Condors kept the racket up all night. It only quietened down as we were having breakfast. We gave ourselves a lay-day on the 6th to have a look round the North Fort. After showering the Royal Dorset Yacht Club, we headed off the fort, which was well worth a visit. Built to protect Portland Harbour, in conjunction with the fort on the bill, it will provide a glorious view of the Olympic sailing area, so no doubt access will cost hundreds of pounds in August. After Weymouth, the next stop was to be Dartmouth. On Friday the 7th of May, we slipped at 7:15 and motored out in very light winds to Portland Bill. As we passed Portland Harbour, some dolphins came out to have a look, but soon departed. We didn't know then, but those were the only dolphins we would see during our entire voyage. As we got to the bill, the wind increased enough to sail. The race was very quiet, with a moderate wind over a still neapish tide. Our only worry was to keep an eye out for the submerged lobster pots that are reputed to abound in the inshore passage.
On seabed, in vicinity of line joining 4 positions. First position, 51, 28.7 north, 001, 25.2 east. Second position, 51, 30.3 north, 001, 33.3 east. Third position.
The wind gradually eased and came round more to the east. We hoisted the cruising chute and tried to find an angle that would give us some speed, jibing in and out of Lyme Bay. The wind got lighter, and with the tide turning we gave up and started motoring. Our intention had been to make Salcombe and to call in on an old friend who has a house there. When I called him, he was in Portsmouth, so with no reason to plug the flood tide, we turned into Dartmouth, where we arrived at 1600. My enduring memory of Dartmouth was how expensive the Dart Marina had been, so we called the harbour master and inquired about the town pontoon. He came back saying that if we returned after 1700, when the commercial boats had stopped running trips, he would keep a berth for us, so we went for a cruise up the river to pass the time. The Navy had a frigate moored up with a reception going on and a constant procession of visitors. They were taken out by boats manned by Dartmouth cadets. 3 hoots as they reversed away from the quay, and 1 or 2 every time they touched the wheel. Very proper. The town pontoon was good value. No dedicated toilets, but there was a public toilet block with showers not far away, surprisingly clean. I've seen much worse in marinas. For added value, there was a music festival on the front. Finally, there was a blog to be written up, and we convinced ourselves it was just about warm enough to have a drink in the cockpit, wearing 2 fleeces. Total distance logged for the day was 56 miles.